Friday night here on the Paranormal Network, which means it's time once again for a Friday night paranormal chat. Jason Hewlett here, Paranormal Network manager, sometimes ghost hunter. Very excited to have Caroline Corey, filmmaker, joining me to talk about her new movie, A Tear in the Sky, plus just her fascination with the UFO UAP phenomenon in general. Welcome, Caroline. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, Jason. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I've been looking forward to this since you were able to confirm that you would come on, because I love A Tear in the Sky, and we did a video review here on the Paranormal Network that Taylor James Johnson did. But to talk to you about this, because you did something very different with this film. It's not just a documentary. You documented research that you and your team did into this phenomenon. So could you explain a bit about why are you interested in this phenomenon in general?
Well, for me, it started, I was very young. I was 5 years old. I started having paranormal experiences, and gradually it was UFOs appearing. So I've always been very, very curious. Like, what is that? And how does it work? So I got first in the field of consciousness studies, and then eventually parapsychology and things like that. And more recently, I was very fascinated with the UFO phenomenon, and I had this inspiration: go do a UFO film. So as a filmmaker, the first thing you do is to see what else is out there, who's done this subject from the perspective that you wanted. I wanted to approach it from a scientific perspective. I thought, this hasn't been done. What can I do? And so doing my research, I realized, wow, no one's really gone out to do an investigation from scratch. There's many scientists and experts who are studying footage that's already out there. And so I didn't want to do that. I wanted to see, can we set up something scientifically? What type of devices? Where would we go? All of that from scratch. And can we capture something in real time and have that data analyzed scientifically? So that had never been done before. And I said, it's time. So that's how the idea came about.
And that's what I found so refreshing, because, and it's the same, like we delve in the realms of ghosts and hauntings with We Want to Believe, in that everyone else is just sort of going for this entertainment value, right? Reenactments, that kind of thing, and just trying to make it more slick, etc. Not that Tear in the Sky isn't slick, but they forget the science. And that's the only way that this field will be taken seriously, no matter what you're investigating, is if you can take a scientific approach. So can you explain the approach you guys took? Because I know it involved multiple locations in California and just different crews working at the same time.
Yes. So the idea was, when you look at the amazing footage that's out there on YouTube, you see really, really cool stuff, but it's usually one angle, one camera. Maybe there are a few witnesses, maybe there are a couple cameras, but it's always just that one perspective and one spectrum, meaning the CCD, the regular cameras, even though they could be high definition. That's not enough. That's not enough data to study the phenomenon. So the first thing we thought, we need to have multiple devices. So just for the cameras, for example, we wanted to have several CCD cameras, several night visions, several infrared FLIR, which is a whole different range of infrared. And so all capturing the same event at the same time, as well as from different locations at the same time. So we can achieve some sort of triangulation. Now you're starting to have data points across these different spectrums and different angles that start to give you more credible data, more scientific data. So that was the first thing we did. And of course, in addition to optical, we wanted to capture radiation, radio frequencies, acoustic, the whole spectrum of physics pretty much at the same time from different locations. So that's how we came at it. We really kind of designed it that way so that there is nothing left. We didn't think about this. We even thought about quantum random number generators we had. So, we had the entire spectrum of devices, which was a first.
It was, and I can remember like many years ago, a friend of mine who's a big UFO enthusiast, and he belonged to these different UFO sites, right? Where people are like, we got to get information. He said, well, why don't we just get a bunch of people in different parts of the country along the same coast, and we all agree to meet at the same time, and we all watch the skies, and whatever we see, we report. And they were just like, get off this page. Why would we do that? Blah, blah, blah. Like there seemed to be this hesitancy to do that. Did you meet, and was anyone kind of didn't want to go that route when you pitched this idea? Like, were there people that like, no, you can't do that?
Actually, I didn't pitch the idea to anyone. I went out and did it myself. I
There
said,
you
you know,
go.
if I'm going to pitch this to a network or, team up with another production company or something, there's always going to be some limitations. So I just went directly to scientists and to groups that were already interested in a scientific approach. And I found the team at the time. It was the UAPX team. And I found Kevin Day. He was the first one I found. And he had scientists on his team. And he's been wanting to do the same thing. So we said, you know what? Let's just go out and do it right with the scientists on board from the beginning. And yeah, I mean, we didn't really worry about what other people were going to say because we thought we had the scientific expertise. So let's just go out and do it.
No, I think like with Kevin, him of course being a part of the USS Nimitz with the Tic Tac videos, right? Like I mean, he's been on shows before, but he revealed new information about that whole experience. Can you explain a bit about what he brought out that was different?
Yeah. So to be honest, I wasn't going to cover the Tic Tac incident, the 2004 Nimitz incident, because I thought, it's been out, people know about it. I don't want to rehash the story. But when I found Kevin Day and we had a conversation and he told me things and he's totally touched me, how his life was pretty much destroyed, And so I said, you know what, you have to tell more of your story. And so that's how we ended up recording this interview. And he revealed some things that he had never revealed before. For example, that when he tried to talk about the radar images that he had captured, basically he was laughed at. And then some people came from, I think it was the Air Force. They came and they confiscated all of the recordings, all of the data. He even said some of the blank tapes were erased. So, I felt like in this movie, he was adding to the story. And what ended up happening is that we ended up capturing very similar objects, which, we didn't know. I mean, we were getting into this thing. We don't know what we capture, especially that we set it up only for 5 days, which was really a huge gamble, massive gamble. And so because we ended up capturing these Tic Tac like objects as well, going against the wind and things like that, his story became even more relevant. It's almost like it started in 2004, and here we are in 2021 capturing similar things in the same area. So that was really amazing. Amazing. It's like his story came full circle.
I just want to pause here because of a statement from one of the people in the audience, Vince King. I've had different experiences in my life, ghosts, Bigfoot, and UFOs with other people, or I'd never put myself up to be laughed at. I feel like the damn target for strange happenings. Have you met, I mean, it's sort of, have you met people with that sort of experience for this, Caroline, or even yourself? Like, does it seem like certain people just seem to attract this kind of activity?
Yeah, for sure. I think, some people, just because they are out there and they believe in it, they're going to attract all sorts of anomalies already. And I think they're part of the mainstream. You can show them any sort of evidence, like right in front of them. Well, no matter what you show, no matter what you say, science or no science, if they don't want to believe, if they're not open, they're just not going to believe, and they're going to laugh at you and think, whatever. But I tell you, from my experience, even some hardcore scientists or even people who just don't want to believe, they would tell me, I don't believe in this stuff and this and that. But then off camera, they would say, but you know what? When I was 10, I was out in the woods and this thing happened to me. And I'd be like, well, you believe in it. Why don't you just allow yourself to investigate? Just be open to the idea. So it's kind of funny. I think deep inside, everybody's very intrigued, at least, to know what the truth is.
I agree. I think there's a bit when you take that leap, you kind of open yourself up a bit more, and your worldview does change, right? It
Definitely.
opens up your world, your life experience. I thought that comment was very much in line with what Kevin Day was going through with his experience. So I'm really glad he could. That was almost one of to me the most profound parts of A Terror in the Sky is hearing his story and what happened to him and what the government did to try to just hide it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm hoping also with this film, with him saying these things, that other people will be encouraged to just speak the truth at this point, especially more recently with all the reports coming out with the congressional hearing. I mean, more and more people are talking about it. It's becoming more accepted. So I'm hoping also with this film, with Kevin Day's testimony, that they'll just be encouraged to keep talking. We need to have more and more validation, more testimony. So yeah, I thought that was really, really important.
Now, of course, you did get new Tic Tac footage in the same spot where the U.S. Nimitz occurred. So that in itself is groundbreaking and pushing the limits of what's been done before. But you also got The Terror in the Sky, which I think was so exciting to watch that. And so how did that come about? Explain to people how that tear showed up.
First of all, I have to tell you, I called the movie A Terror in the Sky 2 years ago, meaning 2 years before it came out. And so so that was kind of interesting coincidence. But anyway, yeah. So what happened was we decided originally we were going to go out for 10 days because we had a huge amount of equipment and we were going to set it up in 3 locations. So it was a huge undertaking. Also, you're a filmmaker. So from a production standpoint, it was it was a big production to try to manage. And so we said, you know what, budget wise, let's just go do it for 5 days. And if we don't capture anything, we can always extend it. So, of course, we ended up choosing that location, which was the original 2004 Nimitz Encountered Catalina channel. And then we go out for 5 days. And I'm thinking as we get closer, right? Oh my God, 5 days? Like, how many people do you know who go out on expedition and come back empty handed? I mean, what are the odds that we would actually capture something really, really anomalous in those 5 days? So, anyway, I'm just like sending out my, like universe prayers, like something show up. I was hoping for at least one really, really compelling, irrefutable incident, to capture on camera across multiple devices, so on and so forth. Anything. And sure enough, the first 2 days were a wash because we had so many problems and things breaking down and software and things like that. But then on the third day, we start to capture very anomalous things, including an object that flew exactly like the Tic Tac against the wind, same shape, same everything. And so I was like, okay, we need more. Anyway, so we and don't forget, we have so many devices running 24/7 and we are recording 24/7. So sometimes we're able to capture them right there. And sometimes it was after the fact, as we were reviewing the tapes, we're like, oh my God, look at this one. And then we would correlate the time stamp with other devices. Like exactly at that time, we had a radiation spike, and then we had the radar do this, and so on and so forth. So anyway, by the end of the fourth day, we had captured really, really very cool looking things. I mean, things zigzagging, but things appearing out of nowhere, rotating, registering cold. Think about that. An object that's flying in the sky, registering cold. What kind of propulsion system is that? And then disappearing. We had all sorts of, we had Tic Tac like objects literally raining down in the water, dropping at extraordinary speed, dropping in the water that looked exactly like the Tic Tac, except we captured them on the infrared, on the FLIR camera, meaning if you looked at, with your naked eye, you wouldn't see anything. So it was as we were looking through the recording that we would see these things after the fact. So a lot of correlations with those Tic Tacs in that area. And then finally, on the last day, the scientists are reviewing all the tapes and analyzing. We capture this thing. We're like, wait, what just happened there? It's literally an opening and a closing. It's some sort of a cloud, something that opens and closes and reveal. It's like we see actual objects popping out of it, little objects. I think there was 50 to 100. And so, of course, we're dealing with hardcore scientists. The first thing, oh, it's a camera glitch. Oh, maybe it's this. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's nothing checks out. It's not radiation. It's not an anomaly, a light anomaly. Of course, it's not a camera glitch. Plus, we have radar data that also correlates with the same object that opens and closes. And also the radar picks up on objects, reflective objects. It doesn't pick up on radiation, doesn't pick up on light. So it's actually showing these objects as well. And so we're like, wait a minute. If this thing opens and closes, there's a bunch of stuff coming out of it. What do you call that?
It's a wormhole. Like
a wormhole.
It's a wormhole.
And of course, the scientists, are like, wait a minute, we're scientists. We can't go there. We can't just claim that we found a wormhole just like that, which I understand. I get that. But since then, Jason, so we said we're going to call it wormhole-like just because it opens and closes for now. And since then, we kept trying to get more and more data, maybe satellite images or anything else, and also sharing it with other scientists. To date, there's not one scientist that can give us some sort of prosaic explanation or plausible explanation. Nothing. Even if maybe it's an atmospheric event, maybe it's some sort of, I don't know, clouds do some weird stuff, any sort of explanation. So that is crazy. Is it possible that we stumbled on a wormhole? We recorded a wormhole. So I think it's extraordinary and so fascinating. That we were able to do something like that. I've never seen anything like this before, recorded on multiple devices that way. Have you?
No, and I think that's what really gave this documentary the credence, the credit, right? It gave it validity because it was multiple devices picking up the same thing, and I think that's never been done before. And that's what we try to do as ghost hunters. We don't just use audio; we use audio and video and flare. All that's, REM pods, motion detecting equipment, because if you can get it on multiple devices and show that, it means something.
Exactly.
That's what you guys did. And it just, even when that opened up and you could see things through it.
Yeah.
That just blew my mind. I'm like, they've got something here. Like they really got something here.
And people who think could be radiation or light. Okay. But what happens is that it's only in a small part of the frame. If it's radiation, then it will be everywhere. If it's like radiation kind of, or some sort of light effect, it wouldn't be exactly in this opening and closing. That doesn't make any sense. And so in addition to this, we've been trying to collect data from satellite, see if we can get maybe satellite images. And we've been trying to contact different agencies, private agencies and governmental agencies. And of course, as you know, satellite aren't always everywhere. So some satellite agencies told us we don't have those images, but others did and basically didn't want to share them. It was like, okay. And then all for whatever reason. And we even asked for a Freedom of Information Act. We filed a Freedom of Information Act request. And they said basically that had they have this particular location at this particular time with those coordinates, but that this information is basically denied, meaning FOIA exempt, meaning classified.
Wow, which just I think that just stokes the fires of that even more in my mind, right? It shows more, even more, that you guys got something legitimate that the government knows about and doesn't want to talk about yet.
Yeah, I mean, for all we know, it could be unrelated. It's
Mm.
possible that during that time something else was happening that they can't share, that's classified. It's possible. I don't know. Uh, but needless to say, it means that we stumbled on something at that time that's quite significant.
In a place where the Navy did get videos of Tic Tac objects and
Exactly, in this
self-included.
exact same location, and plus those objects, the scientists were able to measure the size, and they're exactly the same size as the estimated Tic Tac that was seen in those videos.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. I got a comment here from Connie Phillips, who says what you might have seen on the other side of the wormhole were actually orbs, actual souls coming and going. Scientists can't explain, but people who know. What do you think that was on the other side that you saw?
Well, actually, like I said, the radar is going to pick up on reflective objects. It's an
Okay.
actual object. So if it's a being that's showing up, I mean, it's definitely matter, some sort of matter. And so it's a solid material.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not consciousness or like a light orb type thing for sure.
I I just love that part of the documentary. I thought that was just so exciting to me. Another part, obviously, that has to be addressed is you were able to bring William Shatner in, which
Yeah, of course.
'cause
Yeah.
I thought that was, and at first it seemed like a gimmick, but it wasn't. So how did he get involved? Like, because he was actually like, had good commentary, like, very well read, well spoken man.
Yeah, so actually, to be honest, we were fine, with the science, and we had Michio Kaku as a lead scientist also commenting. But what I'm trying to do with this film is really open the conversation to the mainstream. It's like enough of this hiding, enough of this ridicule. This is a subject that needs to be taken seriously. Therefore, I included science, but also I wanted to figure someone who would help us kind of make it relatable, approachable. And so I had worked with Shatner before on something else. I mean, I had met him before. And so I thought, I wonder how that would work out, because everybody now, I mean, he's a legend. And I think what would end up happening is that, first of all, that would open it up, hopefully be more attractive to the mainstream. But also, it's kind of, he represents sci-fi, and it's like we're making sci-fi into science. So I kind of liked that bridge that he was helping us create. And so I thought, hey, if it works, great. So we contacted his office and we said, this is what we're doing, and this is who's in it. And we showed him a trailer, and he said, I'm in.
That easy. I think that's awesome, and he seems genuinely interested in the subject matter as well, which I thought was great.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know if he actually believes it's a UFO versus extraterrestrial versus us versus our technology, but he's extremely not only interested but knowledgeable about all sorts of mysteries and paranormal events. He's investigated a lot himself. As you know, he's in many movies, I mean, films, documentaries, investigating that sort of topic. So he's genuinely into that sort of, mysterious mechanics of the universe. So that's why this is not scripted. We just asked him, hey, this is what we did. This is what we're going to do. What do you think? He was just like so into it. It was like, oh my God, like this tells us about the mysteries of the universe and how much we don't know and how much so I thought it was very, very helpful to have him there, make those comments.
It was, you're right. It does sort of bring in the mainstream because as soon as when I watched the trailer when it came out, I was just like, "Oh, Shatner's in it. I want to check it out." You know what I mean? Like it just was a
Yeah.
natural point of interest for myself. I had a question here from Dan Glazer. What do you think of cattle mutilations? What are your thoughts on that, there, Caroline?
Yeah, you know what? I was at Skinwalker Ranch one time. We were talking about the cattle mutilation, and I also work sometimes with Linda Moulton-Howe. She has investigated those a lot. So I looked into it a little bit. I have to say it's not my field of expertise. But I feel it is a part of an experiment, and I don't know if it's just extraterrestrial, to be honest. I feel it's extraterrestrial technology, but I feel it's a combination with some sort of covert, experiment that we are doing. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it. So, but it's definitely real because I know many people who firsthand experienced those things. So, yeah.
No, and I'm with you on that as well. And it's been going on long enough that there's substance to it. There's enough people that have come out saying that their cattle has been mutilated. They found their cattle mutilated, even up here in Canada, like in Alberta, which is the province next to me. So there's something going on.
For sure, definitely. Even with the abductions, I have to tell you, like that subject is also very much ridiculed. Although I don't know if you've seen that 1,500-page report that came out when they were talking from the Pentagon, actually, to talking about the harmful effects of coming in contact with a UFO or extraterrestrial intelligence. They're even talking about abductions and some sort of implanting or taking ovaries and eggs and sperm and stuff like that, all sorts of experiments being done. So to me, for a governmental report to come out to talking about these things tells us there is just way too many examples, way too much evidence that not everybody's crazy. This is real. And those harmful effects they're talking about are measurable. I mean, people come back with actual burns. They come back with actual things under their skin and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I think this phenomenon is more than real. It's definitely happening, and it has been for a long time.
In the few minutes we've got left, I guess it's that catch-all question that's got to be asked. What do you think is going on then with UFOs and UAPs? What do you think they are?
Oh, I think it's definitely a combination of both. I think a lot of it is our own technology, which I understand it's black projects, and the government is not going to tell us about what they're doing. But I think also a lot of it is is not non-human, because I've seen things that I don't think as advanced as we could be. I don't think it's human technology, because it's, first of all, there's intelligence behind it beyond AI. I mean, you have a direct, literally a conversation, telepathic conversation with this thing. You tell it something and it does it. I just had an experience where I had those orbs come in, show up right above my house, and they were like bouncing into each other. And I kept saying, okay, well, show me something else. And then it would turn into more orbs. And then I'd be like, okay, well, follow me. And then I'd start walking and it's following me. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not the only one. There are many other stories like that. So when you are interacting live with an intelligence behind these objects or these sightings, I want to say it's not just human technology. I've seen things morph from solid to light and things like that. So it's that's the problem. Actually, this is not one thing. It's multiple things happening in so many different ways. We can't begin to wrap it all up, under one description or like one thing.
No, I agree. I'm under well, I guess assumption, because we haven't been able to test all of it yet, that all this stuff, like when you talk about UFOs, ghosts, Bigfoot, all of it is part of one phenomenon.
Yeah.
Places like Skinwalker Ranch where you can really see all these things come into play. And there's other places around the world. And I think it's too bad as researchers, so many in our field want to just stick to one area. You
Yeah.
kind of got to touch on all of them if you really want to try to get a full overview of what's happening here. I think.
Yeah. And the common denominator, and that's what I'm interested in, is the mechanics of the universe, the mechanics of reality itself, the fabric of space time itself that would allow something to appear, disappear, that will allow something to warp, that would allow something to show up and morph into something. And you know what I mean? So it's kind of like the mechanics behind all of these events. To me, I feel it has to do with consciousness, which is an entanglement, and quantum mechanics, and that whole background picture that really, really defines reality.
Yeah, 100%. And it's very much a part of our consciousness experience. It's tied into that. And that's right, kind of where the parapsychology aspect really comes into play with this. You know what I mean? It's fascinating. It's something, I could talk about all day. So
Same here. Because at the end of the day, science, current science, is supposed to explain how reality works, like what reality is. But you can't explain non-physical events using physical laws. The Newtonian laws work for one part of reality, but what about the rest? And so that's why I feel what's happening in the background is really the precursor to what we end up seeing. So that's why I'm more interested in what's happening in the background, and we just have to keep pushing. We just have to keep putting this information out there, making it as credible as possible, more and more, and stop worrying about, oh, they're going to label me woo woo, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just believe in yourself. And, if we keep doing and putting this information out, I mean, eventually science is going to catch up.
I agree 100%. And I'm really glad to have you out there helping to push the envelope, Caroline. Where can people watch A Tear in the Sky?
Yeah, they can watch it on Amazon, or probably the best way is just go to the website, atearinthesky.com, and there's all the platforms listed there.
That's fantastic. And having watched this documentary, I encourage everybody to go out and do just that right now, because it's a great one. It's probably one of the best documentaries of its kind out there.
Thank you for saying that. I so appreciate it.
Yeah, I only say what I mean, so I definitely do.
We have to say we did make history with this one. It's
Oh,
very
absolutely. And that just to watch that unfold was just awesome. That wraps up our live chat for this week, folks. I'm going to be back in 2 weeks with a whole new conversation. Until then, thanks again, Caroline, for joining me today. It's been fantastic.
Thanks so much for having me. It was awesome.
And thanks to everyone who tuned in and commented. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Until then, stay